I mean, I'm gonna start recording now. Let's see. Wrapping up. Okay, you know what? Let's go straight to giving out the certs first. So I think I promised you guys at the start that we're gonna do the certs. uh, I do have them somewhere. Okay. Ludwig and Theo have done it so far. Let me quickly DM you guys the stuff. Yo, congrats on the on finishing the homework. Yeah. How's it for you guys actually? Do you guys find like the homework fun? Do you guys find it helpful? Do you guys find it like difficult? Okay, let me send you guys the yeah. Oh, also feel free like if you guys want to submit your assignments over like the next few weeks, right? You can just ask me because all I have to do is like make sure that you submitted everything and then just like okay, yeah, here you go. Here's a picture that I generated with a script like 3 years ago. Yeah, it was fun. Okay, let's see. It was fun, a bit of a challenge as they put you out of your comfy limited box. Oh yeah, I mean that's kind of the goal. So right, I think I have said repeatedly like if this is your like if you are familiar with writing a certain theme, a certain setting, a certain point of view, like, go do something else. Try try a different style, a different perspective. I feel like if you forever write the same genre of stories, I mean, yeah, like you only learn so much. Whereas like if you try something else, you might learn new things that bring you back into like that you can eventually bring back into your original genre of writing. Yeah. You think fictional writing is something you have a little trouble with because you tend to be very factual in writing. So the lesson helps to build a foundation or put yourself out to put yourself out of your comfort zone. Yeah, for sure. I think like I think I mentioned before, I find it sad that we don't really do as much creative writing as we used to, like in like primary school and stuff. Like we touched it so much, and I enjoyed it, right? But and then after that it was just argumentative essays, and I feel you know like so much wasted potential, right? Argumentative essays are useful, I do agree, right? But at the same time, like it's not nice to be grinding an argumentative essay for like the rest of your writing career. You're constantly doing fictional, but you're always told it sounds clinical, like you're writing non-fiction. Okay. Do you feel like your writing style has changed somewhat? Like, to make it feel more fiction? Yeah, in your studies, secondary school was just analysis. Yo, that's literature. You think it's improving the more you write because of this course and all the advice you've been getting. That's good. Yeah. I think if there's one thing I would change about the course is to find a way to like encourage more feedback back and forth, and like I think I should also have time to give feedback, but I think I have poured so much time into like working the syllabus and the slides, and I'm just like okay, I'm done. And then like it can be very taxing because like you guys, everyone here is making time out of their weekends to do this, like to attend the classes, and sometimes like there are times where I'm out with friends for dinner and we are supposed to end by 8, right? But maybe it's dragging on and it's almost 9 p.m. and I'm just like, guys, I got to leave early because I have to teach. So it's a bit painful on my side because suddenly I'm like, okay, no hanging out with friends, I guess. There were quite a bunch of plans that I had to cancel here and there because of this course. I'm just like, ugh. But it's okay. I think it's overall I'm happy that like that this course is like also like like this is something that is impacting you guys positively. Like some of you guys told me like this is you guys feel inspired to write, you guys are getting better. And I think I've learned a lot as well, because a lot of the information that I use in my writing, like some of it I never really put into words. And it's interesting to finally say, you know what, now if I want to teach someone that, right, how do we turn that into a structured lesson, right? And then after that, from there, I'm like, okay, time to do more research to fill in the gaps of my knowledge. So I think to a certain extent, like I learn more, not just a bit about writing, but a lot about it is like how do I come up with a syllabus. I think this is the first time I'm doing this, so hopefully this makes sense. Like hopefully the structure flows well enough for you guys. Yeah. How was the lessons actually? Yeah, I see some people talking. The rest, feel free to throw out your ideas as well, like your thoughts. Trying to understand like what's the vibe, because I think like I haven't asked for feedback the entire course also, so I'm just been like, here's the entire course. Yeah, the lessons are informative. They're structured very well. Okay, whoa, that's great. Great to know. Yeah, I was aiming for 12 course. Is 12 course too long, too short? Just right. In before someone is just like, oh, you should have lessons after lessons after lessons indefinitely. Yeah. Yeah. For those just joining, we are talking about it's basically like hearing your thoughts, feedback ish. Like, so this is like, what about the lessons? The structure is good? Is the length of the course good? Is it too short, too long? Okay. Lessons are quite interesting, got different writing perspective and techniques. Okay. Lessons are well paced, but due to the nature of creative writing, it's challenging to isolate certain concepts and ideas to demonstrate. Yeah, like some of it, I feel like some of the topics seeped into each other, which is fine, right? I'm teaching a certain lesson, and then I kind of tease that, in the future lesson, we will be going more into that. And then, like, in the later lessons, I refer back to what we went through before. I think that's kind of, it's all right, right? Like, I feel, you know in fact most subjects can't be compartmentalized into such nice little boxes because of all the relationships. Yeah, it's a good start for fiction writing. All right, that's good. It might be a bit fast for you, and it might be because you're distracted. A short break would help. Yeah. Okay, understand. Yeah, I think the the reason, I think this course I purposely structured it to be more compatible with, like, I'm a working adult, right? And I think most of you guys here are working adults or students studying with loads of homework. I purposely made it such that the homework, yes, you can do it, and like I suggest, initially I set the deadline to be like every week, right? And the idea is at the start of every lesson, I would have 15 minutes or so to go through homework before I start the lesson. It turns out the lessons will fill out the whole hour, and I will not have time to give feedback. It turns out giving feedback takes a lot of energy, a lot more energy than I imagined. Teaching is easier. Giving feedback is very hard because I have to open the document, I have to read through, and I'm trying to read it as fast as possible so you guys don't spend the next 5 minutes watching silence. Then from there, I need to start formulating a response and like figuring out, you know, Or that's one way to do it, doing it live. Or I go through everyone's homework. I start to collate tips and points, and then I have to. So it's like making a second lesson for each lesson, right? Each lesson will have like a feedback lesson and then the lesson. And I think that was way more commitment than I was willing to put in, which is why in the end the homework deadlines didn't mean anything. So I apologize for that. Yeah, I think it started to eat, like I did try that feedback thing once or twice in some of the earlier classes, but it is very mentally taxing, which is why I didn't I stopped doing it. I think it would have been very, yeah, I think it would have been quite unsustainable. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna teach the lesson and then we'll go with that. Um I do wish if I were to redo it again, like I feel like maybe now, if in future, hypothetically, if I did it again, right, I wouldn't have to come out with a new syllabus because I'll just reuse this. I don't have to come out with the lessons, I'll just reuse this. Then I would have more energy to actually focus on like feedback giving in between the like about for the homework you guys submitted, because I feel like you guys put in effort into to the homework and I'm just like I don't even have time to read it. Yeah. So I think that's not great on my part. Yeah. Um yeah. Let's see. So I mean one way to ease the load is also to make every lesson 2 weeks apart, right? And so this way you have more time to work on the homework. But at the same time, I feel like if it's 2 weeks apart and you have homework due, people, instead of waiting 5 days and then you take and then you have 2 days to write, you will have 12 days and then you take 2 days to write. That tends to be the nature of deadlines. Right. Okay, let's see. The lessons are good length. We know sometimes we went over an hour, but it felt like because we were having a good discussion and therefore were worth the extended length. Okay, so funny thing is some of the slides after making the slides and looking at them, I'm just like, it always feels like the lesson would be 15 minutes and that's it. Right. But I think I always get surprised because in the end I will ask for feedback and not feedback. I will try to turn it into a discussion, right? Like I don't just say, okay, here's this, do that, right? I go and I'll say, here's what an idea of a hook, right? Let's look at some of them. And then after that, instead of here's why it's good, here's why it's bad, okay, full stop, we're done, right? I'll ask you guys, do you like it? Why do you like it? Right? What can we learn from it? And then because you guys are actively thinking, it becomes more engaging than just a lesson, just a lecture. So that's one pro. And another pro is that that 15-minute lesson turns into 1 hour. Right? Because the discussion takes a while. But I think the discussion is what brings a lot more value to it than just listening. Because if you didn't have to discuss and you didn't have to interact and you didn't have to use your mind and analyze, right? Then you could just be watching like a YouTube video on how to write, or you could be reading an article. Right? I feel like me being here live where I can help guide the thought process and the learning process, right? It would then it doesn't make sense to be wasting that on just mindless lecturing, right? I want it to be a active learning. Yeah, so I think it's good because it helps fill out the time as well. Yeah, I remember like looking through some of the lessons actually. Let me see if I can find lessons. I think lesson 8 or something. I was just like, there is no way. Maybe lesson 7. I'm like, there's no way this is gonna take the full hour. And then we took the full hour. Yeah, like, come, let me take a look. I think it was lesson 7. Like, if we look from the high level, right? It's just like, here's the hook. Here's the type of hooks. And then we talk about the inciting incident and then we're done. Right. But I think because we went into like so many examples and we started asking each other, like, what do you think? Right. I think that kind of discussion makes it more fruitful, right? Because otherwise, this is an article you read in 10 minutes online. So yeah, and then we'll just be wasting each other's time because what I could just link you stuff and then you'll just read it in your own time. Yeah. Okay. Would be kind of cool to have gotten feedback, but when there's 10 to 20 of us, yeah, I mean, yeah, you need to get paid to do that. I wish I was paid to do this. Whenever I tell like my friends I'm doing this, like, oh, I'm doing a writing workshop. Oh, you're getting paid, right? I was like, yeah. I think when I was telling some of my colleagues at work, oh yeah, there's a writing workshop I'm teaching. It's like, oh okay, wow, hustling outside of work, right? I was like, it's not a hustle if I'm not making money, right? Paid with exposure. Oh no. I mean, I still do believe that I should do things for myself, right? Like yes, it's good that the community benefits, but if the community benefits at the cost of me feeling like I'm burnt out, right? That I was like, okay, I need to do this for the good of the community, right? It's not sustainable. I will run out of energy, I will run out of passion, I will run out of motivation to do the things I do for the community, right? So whenever I organize an event or whenever I host a writing workshop, I I first make sure that this is something I want to do, right? This is something I want to take something out of it too, right? Yes, you guys are learning, but I also make it a point to that I'm learning something or I'm growing a certain skill that I want to grow, right? For instance, here I would say I love to teach, right? And usually I don't get a lot of opportunities to teach. So when I do teach, it would be at panels in, like, for instance, like when you go to furry conventions, you can like teach stuff in panels, right? But those are like one-off sessions for an hour and you don't get to go to deep dive into topics as much as you would like to. So I would, like, if I do a writing one, I've done a writing one before and I took like tiny bits here and there and then just like slapped it in, touch and go after 10 minutes each topic. And yeah, I felt like, we could do more, right? And so this writing workshop was like how far can we take this? How deep can we go? And I was like, okay, let's try a 12 course workshop. So yeah, I mean, something in it for me, right? I love to teach, right? So now this is like I love to plan. So this is like planning as well, coming up with a syllabus, coming up with slides. So like, sure, I mean, who knows? I may never do another writing workshop again, right? But I learned how to write a syllabus, and this skill set carries across to other workshops if I ever plan one in future, right? So I think it's good. Yeah. Yeah, working hard to make something for yourself and lessons help you to do that. Okay, that's good. Right. Yeah. Like you used to struggle for to make something creative. Yeah. Honestly though, I think most of the stuff that I'm teaching is not groundbreaking, right? Like I think everything I'm teaching is not groundbreaking, but sometimes in life you just need an excuse to start, right? Because let's face it, right? If you really wanted to write, you would have picked up a document or like a pen and paper. You would have started writing anyway. You have like you'll find like resources online and you'll search, right? And yeah lah, I mean that's the ideal, right? But sometimes like life gets in the way. It turns out you're gonna write and then your friends invite you out for lunch or for dinner or for hanging out somewhere, or like there's a new Netflix series that came out and you need to watch it, right? And so sometimes like writing doesn't get done, and that's fair, right? Sometimes things in life are like more attractive, but at the same time, like writing is I think writing is quite nice because it's so fulfilling, and I hope some of the passion shows in my lessons, because I think writing lets you achieve something that that it helps you connect with people. It helps you evoke emotion, evoke imagery that like you can't just it's so difficult to share, right? And now like when you learn how to tell a story, like you can write so much more compelling things. You can, in fact, even just talking to people, you can share something compelling, right? I think so. I think it's nice to be able to step out of like the usual grind of like, okay, I'm gonna be watching Netflix and hanging out with friends and playing Baldur's Gate for the entire weekend. It's like if you could make 1 to 2 hours, like you set it aside and say, I'm gonna start writing, right? Like I feel like you could do so much more, and you can. It's something fulfilling, something that you look back on and like, wow, I'm happy I did that, right? So if this workshop, part of the goal of having this workshop is to be able to get people started, right? To be able to say like, yo, maybe you've always wanted to write and you just never got around to it, right? Let this be the inertia that helps you get started, right? And I think it's fine, right? Maybe some people will be here, some people sign up for it, they sit in classes and they don't do the homework. They just like, okay, I'm learning new things and I'm happy, right? And other people are just like, okay, I'm gonna do the homework, and then after 2 to 3 lessons they stop. Right? Maybe some of you guys will continue writing for a few more months and then drops off. And then maybe some of you guys will find like this to be a passion to to for the next few years or even the rest of your life, right? Everyone's journey with writing is gonna be different. And I think that's fair, right? Sometimes there are like my take is always like when you say no to something, it's it's opening the door so you can say yes to something else. And if something else is better than writing, then please go and do it, right? But I think if so long as this workshop is like a part of your writing journey, right? Like just one small step of the way, I think this like then the workshop has achieved what I set out to do, right? My goal is not everyone needs to turn into like publishing writers for the rest of their lives, like no. Yeah, let's see, sort of like a spark to light the fire. Yeah, basically you got all the adulting to do and it gets in the way of writing. I understand. I finished a story recently, like earlier this week, right? I think I finished it on Thursday night. And like how I've been writing it is on the commute to work. I'm taking the train, I'm taking the bus, I'm just like tappity away on my phone, right? So I'm just like, okay, I text my friends, and then while waiting for them to reply, I switch over to Google Docs and I start typing even more stuff. I'm just like, oh man, damn, this is a good story. Let's go. Right. I think it sometimes like you have to make time for the things you wanna do, right? Like if you wanna play games, sometimes you have to say no to your friends hanging out, right? If you wanna hang out with friends, then maybe you have to say no to the book you wanted to read. You wanna read that book, then maybe you have to say no to like like I don't know, no to the cafe hopping trip that you wanted to go on. It's like yeah, some things has got to give sometimes, right? If if you wanna hang out with friends, then the writing has to take a backseat. Or you wanna write, then hanging out has to take a backseat. It's a juggle. And I hope you guys find a good balance. If it helps, right, I don't write consistently. I know some people are like, oh, you gotta write 100 words a day. Like I don't do that. Like I write and then I get busy because I have a convention to organize and I don't write for another month, and then I come back and write for 2 hours and then I stop writing again. Like I think it's okay. Yeah, I don't I if you have this whole idea that you need to write a certain amount each month, right, to be considered a writer, then like that feels like gatekeeping. And if that discourages you from writing, then why do you even enforce that on yourself, right? I don't think that's fair, right? Yeah. 10,000 words a day, but some people do that. Some people can actually write. You take this as a skill for future, even though it's not your core and you're determined to finish your homework. Okay, yeah, I mean that's good, right? I purposely made the homework very small and manageable. Like if you want to write it really long, you can, but otherwise you can write it really short either. Like for instance, let's say the movie lesson, right? I put down two scenes. I put down a lot of videos, right? And then just need to choose two to write. Right. So if you felt like that was not enough, you can write three, you can write four, you can write five scenes. You write as many as you want, right? I left it super open-ended because like this is not homework in a sense that I'm here to assess you and give you a grade. This is a starting point to say, yeah, there's a lot of stories you can write, and that decision can be overwhelming, right? There's so much to focus on. You need to focus on characters, plot, the lore, the world building, the fleshing out the scene, like creating tension. Yes, there's a lot to think about, right? But the lesson homework is more like, yo, can we narrow down on that, right? Can you focus on one thing, right? And I'm gonna give you the direction so that you don't feel overwhelmed with the decision making. You don't feel like that paralysis that makes it so difficult to start, right? And so the homework is meant to break it down. The homework is meant to like get the momentum going, right? Let's be real here. Like if I want to make sure that you have completely understood a course and like gone through like 100% the lesson, then we would have like you have tests every week. Make sure you learn the lesson. They'll be like, oh, okay, list down the three goals of having a hook, right? And then you can list it down. But like, do we really need that? Like, I think it's okay to say, yo, let's just start writing. Let's try to explore this, right? In the end, like I can explain to you what a hook is, right? But how everyone here decides to use the hook in their own unique flavor is gonna differ, right? And so why do I want to test that, right? It's for you to explore, it's for you to figure out, and like for you to discover how you want to use it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Speaking of the homework, like, how do you guys find it? Like, okay, what's your most favorite homework? It's such a weird question to ask. Like, what was your favorite take home activity at homework? Can you imagine a teacher asking that in school? They're just like, oh yeah, what's your favorite homework? You're just like the first half of exercise 5 and the whole of exercise 4. Which one was that? Okay, wait, let me look. Okay, I came up with the course a super like months ago before I started my new job. Okay, workshop material. First half of exercise 5. Oh, the movie method. And the whole of exercise 4, the character interactions. Okay. You enjoy writing the activity where you select a picture and then write a narrative? Okay. Yeah. What really early one. You like the third one, establishing character. Run number 4, character interactions and runner up for best. Scene building, world building, and the final lesson, character details. Damn, you like everything. Yeah, dude. I think it's cool. Like that you guys have like all your favorite homework because that already means like the homework is achieving its goal. I think if you went to school and then like a teacher asks you that and you just like straight up like I didn't like any of the homework, yeah, that's basically the experience. Like, oh man, I was like, let's not get there. Like I don't want the homework to be that for for you guys. Okay, that's good. How about the favorite lesson? What's your favorite lesson? Everyone like scrolls through the slides. It's like, oh, I don't even remember. What did we learn in the past 12 weeks? Lesson 7, the hook. Oh, the hook is a fun one. Yeah, we went through a lot of examples on that one. Lesson 7 too? Okay, that's good. Well, everyone loved lesson 7. I okay. Lesson 7 is interesting because that one was the very, instead of showing you guys like tips and tricks, it's more like I'm just gonna start throwing hooks at you guys, and we just look at books and then we look at more books. Heck, I don't think I read like most of these. Actually, I did see a bunch of these. Yeah, but yeah, it's kind. Let's go. Let's go. Wow, everyone loves lesson 7. Okay, wow. Okay, the one that I'm proudest of is the movie method, because that was something that I came up with through my writing. Like I kind of realized like if I wanted it to be engaging, I need to cut where it's fast, cut quick, like fast cuts when it's fast and slow sentences when it's slow. And I realized I'm starting to emulate how it would look like in the movie. So a lot of it was like, man, I need to find videos, and I spent so long looking at movies trying to find like nice scenes that would work for this. I used to use I in the previous iteration I actually taught this in like one of those like writing panels that I did at the convention, and I realized that maybe I should not have chosen Hunger Games the Bloodbath, because that was very violent and might have been too much for some people. Yeah, so I've been like slowly iterating this lesson. Okay, you like lesson 2, setting the scene? Okay, that's good. Yeah, yeah. Which would you say is the most useful lesson, or like the useful takeaway? So if you imagine if you were to forget everything that you've learned in the past few weeks, right? If you were to take one thing with you, you can only remember one thing after that. Which one will you? What do you think is like most crucial for you in your writing? It's a very difficult question. World building? Okay. World building is interesting. I feel like the world building is like, damn, you okay, you can look into Brandon Sanderson's stuff. He has a whole writing lesson l- lecture. Like he has a yeah, he teaches creative writing, right? Science fiction and fantasy. Everything there, right? Like it's a whole thing, dude. Is it in a playlist? Yeah, but he teaches it, and it talks a lot about like what you need to know with world building. In fact, it teaches more like world building part 1. Holy shit, man. I think I read like a variant of it. He's a writer. He writes a lot of like books. He's quite famous for it. Fantasy books. Uh but he also does like you education stuff lah, like teaching videos, which is quite cool because sometimes people like to gatekeep information. So I think it's very nice that he goes and teach that. He tends to write fantasy stuff, so he can talk a lot about world building. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for you, character details was useful. Okay. Setting the scene is useful. Okay. Yeah. Yo, those are cool stuff, dude. I think being able to bring a reader into a scene, or making the character seem realistic, I feel like that is so important, right? You wanna get people into like, you wanna get your readers into invested in the story, right? And it's very hard to do that when characters feel like very flat, right? When the scene feels flat, the characters feel flat, then you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm reading a story, I guess. Right. But when it's like when you can actually feel like you're in the scene, where you can actually feel like these characters are real, right? That's how you get people to know to actually feel invested. Yeah, and I think it's really useful. Lesson 5 was fun but also hard. The movie method that you struggle to visualize. Yeah, I think yeah, that one is super. It's a very abstract thing as well, I would say. Like it needs you to imagine it as a movie. But I mean, I think we watch so many movies that it gives us a good baseline of, horror. How are we gonna get you into the mood of horror? Or get you into the mood of action, thriller, or like fantasy. And I think it's cool. Like I think it does help. Yeah. I feel like I use that so much in my writing, just really subconsciously. Like I don't actually try to like, oh, what does it look like in a movie? But already as is, I do visualize the scene, right? I visualize where I want to be in the scene and then I write it out. Yeah. You mean to Percy Jackson native scene in the OC? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, is man, I think writing is great. Writing is like the idea. Like the way I see it is that when you write, the world you are imagining for people, right, will be different from the world they themselves imagine, right? Again, remember the door when I say like door, everyone imagines a different door, right? And that's okay, right? You are collaborating with the reader to build a world in their minds, right? You have created a world. You can't copy paste wholesale that the whole world into their mind, right? And so you write words in an attempt to get them to visualize the same world, right? It might not be the same exactly, word for word, color for color, but they just need to get the same, if it's supposed to be impressive, right? Make them feel impressive, right? If it's supposed to be calm, peaceful, then make it feel calm and peaceful when they imagine it, right? So you are writing something in the past, right? You have created a world, you have embedded it into a book, right? And years down the line, someone can pick up the book and like take that world that you have created, right? And then they'll breathe life into it, like their own life, their own interpretation, right? And then they will, and then for that moment that they are reading it, right, the characters are alive once more. Ah, it's so good. I think writing is like so amazing like that. Yeah. Okay. Any feedback, right? What do you feel? Do you feel like this is good? How would you like things to, if we did this all over again? What would you like to see? What would you like to learn? Feel free to throw some stuff. I think I also shared earlier, like if I were to do it all over again, like I'll be like, okay, yeah, maybe I need to actually allocate more time and energy to like reading people's homework. Like that's so yeah, it's way more taxing. Yeah. And with my new job and I'm currently organizing a convention and it's just like, oh, okay. All my mental energy has been siphoned elsewhere. But maybe if I can make time for this, then the homework would be a more important part. I think it would be nice though. Like part of the reason was also to help build a community of like writers giving feedback back and forth. Right. And I don't think we managed to achieve as much of that as I would have liked. So maybe if I gave feedback and I gave like, it would make more people feel comfortable giving their own feedback. And I think that would be great. Yeah, but I have tried to set up a writing community before on few occasions where we post stuff, right? Writers will post stuff and then we give feedback. But I started to realize that some people are there to just post their stories, get feedback, but they will never give feedback to anyone else, right? So it's always the same few people who end up giving feedback again and again and again and never getting feedback on their own stories, and eventually they themselves burn out and no one gives feedback anymore, right? Or someone posts story and then there's no reply for another few weeks and then someone posts a story again. Yeah, so I think that don't worry, that this is not, though it's not your fault. Like I think the whole idea of getting people to give feedback is very difficult. Right. So I also don't want to turn it into some like, oh, okay, you give feedback, it that like you need to give feedback to 3 stories, then you can post 1 story and get 3 feedback back from people, so it's a give and take and it will balance out. Like we could do that, right? But like I think it would be nice if people didn't need like a point slash incentive system to want to give each other feedback. I think like, but I have not, if there is a way to set this up successfully for people to have a strong healthy community of like helping each other, giving feedback, reviewing each other's stories, like if there is a way, I haven't found it. So this is something that I will continue to look for. Yeah, you mentioned earlier maybe it's too fast and you can try a short break. Yeah, okay, that's good. We touched on tension and character interactions. How about teams? uh like coming of age, circle of life, prejudice. Teams, I can see how that's useful. Yeah, I think teams do matter. I think if there would be a place to fit that into it, it would be under the plotting. Remember the architects versus gardeners, like the idea of outlining versus winging it. Then yeah, we can just put the team under the outline part, because I feel like architects would be where they would have a bigger picture of the story, and so they understand what message the story is trying to tell, and from there shape the interactions, shape the scenes to fit. Yeah, but I don't think it would be a full lesson on its own. Yeah, but I do see how that can I do see how that can be useful, and I do see how that can fit into the syllabus. Yeah. Do you guys have stories that you want to write after this? Like now that you are free of the homework. Right. Here's like, do you guys have projects that you want to start working on? Is there a comic you want to write? Is there a book series you want to do? Do you want to start writing a bunch of short slice of life stories about a few characters in the world, but there'll be one-off stories here and there of their interactions and experiences? What you guys going for? A story about a rabbit data scientist and an elk mercenary for hire. Ooh. Yeah, stories drops massive list of backlog story ideas. Oh boy. See, this is where, like, remember what I said earlier about, like, when you say no to something, you say it is to open up the door to say yes to something else. Sometimes, like, you can't write them all, right? So sometimes saying no to a certain project can help you focus on the rest. So sometimes it's an idea of whittling down the ideas. But I think the important thing is, like, rather than having it cloud in your mind, write it into the document, into a Google Doc somewhere, and then you clear it out of your mind so you can actually focus on the stories that you feel like writing right now. Write a short story adventures of your 2 orca characters. Oh yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, please do. You posted lesson 10, but you don't think you'll write for a bit, but you'll use it soon. Okay. Like mainly how your main character meet the others in like one team. Okay, like it sounds very character backstory. I think that's the good part, right? Like if you ask, like, for lack of a better word, normie, right? Your non-furry classmates or your non-furry colleagues, you ask them like go and write a story. Most of them would not have any idea what they want to write. Right. Meanwhile, if you ask a furry, they're just like, most of them be like, oh, my persona has this backstory. Like, who here either has a personal backstory or wants to write a personal backstory? Yeah. Just I think like that's kind of the good part, right? We are a community that creates. Right? We are a community, even your persona is something that was created. Right? Either by you or you got an artist to help you design or you bought it as an adopt. Right? All these are like creations. And like writing is also another form of creation, right? You got 4 or 5 stories outlined, you just need to plug away at each of them when you get the time. All the best. You're thinking of writing a one-shot story in your free time to see how you improve. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. You have backstories for a few characters already. Damn. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. It is so fun, dude. Like you have your like, you own these characters, like your personas, and you're just like, how do I turn them into like rather than just like an image, right? How do you come up with a story? How do you bring them to life? Yeah, you don't have a personal backstory, but for your younger days, you have a medieval fantasy epic featuring multiple characters. You're thinking of writing them into something more coherent. Okay, that's fair enough. Uh, it's cool because I think like your idea of like what counts as good stories will change over time, and I think your priorities shift as you grow older. So certain aspects of a story might be less important now, and certain aspects are just like, oh, okay, actually, yeah, I should be focusing on like the maturing of the characters, or I should be focusing on like the personal journeys that they go through, or the interactions between them, or the romance, right? You've been wanting to get around to your personal backstory, but you keep getting distracted by a stronger desire to write NSFW. Understandable. Understandable. It's forever struggle. All the best, dude. Okay. As we wrap up today's chillax chit chat session, do you guys have like any last thoughts, any last words, whatever? I mean, it's not like I'm going to disappear and you can never message me again. You can always just leave a message in the chat. The Discord will still be here. So don't worry, I'm not nuking the entire thing, right? But like, do you wanna share anything before we wrap up? Yeah. Any plans to host something similar to this for RFC 2024? Okay, so for context, I host a convention called Little Island FurCon, or LIFC for short. Uh, I think I will be too busy running around to actually host the panel myself. I need to host the entire event, so maybe not the panel. We'll see how. I mean, there is LFC online, like the online convention. If I feel like sharing something, I would. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Thanks for the workshop. You'll be glad to use the skills you have learned. That's good. Yeah, thanks for the workshop. Hope everyone continues writing or takes it to new heights. Yes, this. If you guys write new stuff, if you guys create, or maybe in a few years' time, someone publishes a book, right? Just post it in here, right? We'll still be here. Thanks for putting all the time and effort. Yeah, I honestly like I'm happy you guys have stayed. We started with like 40 signups, which I'm just like, okay, we'll see how many people drop off, because it's natural that some people will realize that maybe this spending like 12 Saturday evenings slash mornings on Discord to listen to even more classes, even though I graduated already. Like, some people figured out that's not their thing, and that's fine, right? But you guys, like, a lot of you guys have stayed behind, and a lot of you guys are still like reading, like attending the lessons, or for those who don't attend the lessons, still watch the lectures, that I upload to YouTube. So I think it's cool that a lot more people stayed on than I expected. So I'm just like, okay, thanks for staying, guys. I really do appreciate it, right? Like, I think one of the worst things that could happen is I'm in the class and no one shows up, right? I'll be like, ugh. Or worse, one person shows up and I'm teaching one person, and just like, okay. So I'm happy that you guys like kept coming religiously. I know some of you guys are waking at like 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So I do appreciate you guys being here. I do appreciate it when like you guys do the homework, cause you know it means it does mean a lot, right? I put in all this effort, and if like people are just like not my thing, like painful. So I thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for supporting this workshop. It really I'm not the best person to be a teacher. I thought of this like on a whim, and I was like, what if I did a workshop? So and then now we have this. 9 a.m. was a good time for you. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. So for those who have not completed the homework and you still want it, right? Don't worry. Just you still want the certificate, right? So don't worry. Just update me. I have been keeping track of who actually submits, but if I forget, feel free to just like, hey Decro, here's like the past 10, like here are the 10 homework assignments, right? And then like can I get the certificate? Like I'll be more than happy to give it to you. Honestly, like it's not like this is a school with a reputation to uphold, right? I just uh if this is what motivates you, if this is what makes the lesson fun for you, sure. Here's this certificate. Like you can print it out or something. Some of this stuff that I do, like people will actually print it out, then they pin it on their walls. It's very cute. Yeah. So okay. So don't worry too much, alright. In the end, if the homework is just for you to explore, it's for you to learn. It's not about grades at the end of the day. If this homework isn't useful for you, don't feel pressure into doing it. But if it's useful practice, right, you can always come back to it and like hone some of your skills. Okay. With that, let's wrap up the last lesson. I will finally have my weekend Saturday evenings free. And you guys can have the rest of your weekends back. Again, thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for supporting. I really enjoyed myself coming up with all this like syllabus, teaching the lessons. You can kind of tell with like the enthusiasm. Love it, dude. Thanks so much for coming. I'll still be here. Chit chat, the Discord's still here. Don't be a stranger. And we'll see you guys next time. Maybe in another workshop. I don't know. We'll see. Have a good day, you guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekends. Bye.